Alright, in this video I want to get into something that's kind of heavy. Something that hit me pretty good. Now I was praying just the other day. I was talking to God. I was talking to God about this right here. And I was just trying to get things straight, right? Because now and then I talk to God about things that really kind of irk me and just confound me. And that is something I find here, and that's like free will and eternal torment. I'm not going to so much focus on free will here, but on what I was getting into with God on this here. Now, in Isaiah and the Psalms and in Jeremiah, mankind is referred to as clay, and God is a potter, and he forms man out of clay, and he calls out man saying, can the thing formed say unto the one that formed it, no, you didn't? Or a framer who frames some kind of frame. Can the frame say unto the framer that you had no understanding? Right? It sounds like he's talking to like an atheist or something, right? But right here, he's not. He's talking to believers, right? And it's right after he says God's going to have mercy on who he has mercy. He's going to have compassion on who he has compassion, right? And he raised up Moses for a purpose, and then he raised up Pharaoh for a purpose, right? So then the people are, they say things to Paul, and this is what he has to say. Thou wilt say then unto me, why doth he yet find fault? For who hath resisted his will? Nay, but, O man, who art thou that repliest against God? And that always got to me. It's like, I don't get why I can't even ask God a question. It's something that perplexes me. He says he came here, he loves me, he died for me. He wants to sup with me. He wants me to eat his word, that he'll be in me and I'll be in him, and he calls me his son. But I shouldn't ask a question, right? I was like, no, I'm going to ask this, right? Yeah, I might not be anything, but help me grasp what you mean by this, right? Well, anyway, he says, shall the thing formed say to him that formed it, why hast thou made me thus? Hath not the potter power over the clay of the same lump to make one vessel unto honor and another unto dishonor? What if God, willing to show his wrath and to make his power known, endured with much long suffering the vessels of wrath fitted for destruction? Now, this says a lot right here. He wanted to show his wrath, make his power known, and endure with much long suffering, a lot of patience. And long suffering, the word suffering in there, keep that in mind. The vessels of wrath fitted to destruction. Now, he wants to show all this to all of us who are saved, right? But he's not going to do it to us. So how is he going to show it? He has to create vessels that he knows is going to actually turn on him. That ain't going to return the love, right? So he says here, and that he might make known the riches of his glory on the vessels of mercy, which he had afore prepared unto glory, even us, who he hath called, not of the Jews only, but also of the Gentiles. All right, now it goes on more, right? But I wanted to just focus on this, where Paul seems to be saying that God makes two vessels out of clay, right? That represents mankind. So he makes one vessel that he's going to save. He's making it a vessel that's onto a good occasion, right? Something you bring out when you're having a celebration. But another vessel, he's going to make just to take his anger out. He's going to throw it at the wall and just smash it, right? That's what it seems like he's saying about mankind. So it's kind of like, well, then you naturally have that question, like, why did you make me onto this and so not? Because you kind of think, well, is that fair? And it does make the mind go like, wait, what? Huh? I don't get it. It's kind of confusing, right? Because there's people you care about, and you're like, well, God, all these people I cared about, did you just make them for destruction? Right? Then sometimes you talk to atheists, right? And the atheists are like, uh, if God knew I wasn't going to believe in him and I was going to reject him, why'd he make me? Right? And he's just going to send me to hell forever. He knew there was going to be people like me that are going to reject him and they're going to go to hell forever and we're going to be tortured forever. Yet he still made us, and therefore God is evil, right? And you think about it, and you're just kind of like, God, I don't get it. This is actually how it is because you know who's going to accept you and who's not. Yet you bring us all forth. And I thought about our lives teach us about God. And you bring forth a child, that child doesn't ask to be brought into existence, right? But you bring that child into existence thinking that you're going to love the child's going to love you, and you got all these plans, but then the child has its own will, right? Its own free will, and goes against you. And even says straight up, I didn't ask to be born. And, you got all this stuff on me, and they rebel and they go their own way, and sometimes they get into some kind of drug abuse, they do all these things, and, ultimately, let's say they just, die. And as a parent, that would be disturbing. It'd be it would you'd be distraught, right? You'd be all jacked up, messed up. It would hurt, right? They're like, why are you doing this? You're doing it to yourself. I brought you into this world for a good purpose, and you fight against it. But at the same time, God knew that there's going to be people who reject him. So why did he do it? Well, it's the same thing as a parent. You know that your child may actually turn against you. You're taking a risk. When you have a child, your child may grow up to hate your guts and want nothing to do with you and curse your name and curse that they were ever born and just live a life of debauchery and go off and die alone and miserable, right? So I was thinking about that, but then I was like, okay, I get you. I get you, God, but I was like, but eternal? Like eternal torment and fire? I mean, I wouldn't want to be in eternal torment. And he was kind of just saying to me, he was like, well, if you fight against me, why should you have a choice in that? Like, you make yourself my enemy, why should you have a choice on how long you suffer? And if you suffer forever, if you burn up and no longer exist, why should you have a choice? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know why. It just seems, I know, it seems compassionate to be like, okay, well, this being, this child of mine, didn't want to exist, is just fighting me and is never going to, uh, you know, be reasonable and logical and just come to his or her senses. And they're just leading a life of destruction. Isn't it just like put them down, put them out of their misery? And I guess with God, it's a little different because we're mortal, or at least our flesh is mortal, right? So when we have children, we expect, well, everything to be taken care of because good or bad, we're all going to die, right? But I guess God brings forth a child. It's in his image and likeness. So we got this aspect to ourselves that is eternal. And that's a risk, I guess. If you give a creature free will, that that can happen, right? But out of love, you bring forth children anyway. And I guess the little thing, like I'm saying, that's different is with us as humans, we don't know. We don't know if all our children are going to be pleasant or they're all going to be chaos. We're going to have a mix, right? God is supposed to know each one of us before he even brought us forth. He knows the path we're going to take. He knows the choices we're going to make. He knows if we're going to accept him or reject him. So it's a little bit different, right? So it's like, why are you doing this? I mean, okay, I get why you're doing this, but why is it like an eternal torment? Right? This is a picture I'm seeing, right? There's suffering in here forever. And it's like, why forever? And this thing, it hit me. And it was as if God said, well, I brought him forth because I love him. And I did things in their life because I love them. I did all kinds of things to draw them to me because I love them. And I still love them, even though they reject me. And I knew they were going to reject me. I still love them, or I still care about them. And I don't want to let them go. So I'm going to suffer with them forever. And that just hit me like a ton of bricks. I kind of had a big conviction of just like, gotta just reach out to people. I don't know, some of the stuff sounds silly or ridiculous to people, but I don't know, this is gonna convict who it needs to convict, because dang, I was thinking God is scary and deep and mysterious, and whoever goes to hell, he's gonna be there with them, suffering with them. He was like, you know what? I can rejoice with you in heaven, but I'll also suffer with you in hell. And it was just, like I said, it's heavy. It's like it's not as if they're alone there. He's like, I'm not gonna let anybody go. And that was scary deep to me. And it was just like, well, all right, you exist. When your body dies, you're gonna exist forever in one place. You don't want to be here. Stop fighting against your father. There's no need for it. There's no need for you to be here. I want to see you to go to heaven. God definitely wants to see you go to heaven. You gotta let go of what you think is right, what you think is wrong. Let go of your ego. You gotta humble yourself. Let go of your pride. It's just, I don't know. I'm gonna get in some scriptures that kind of back this up because I needed to, you know, not just say I'm talking to somebody I think is God, right? Just talking to myself, talking to a devil or something. And in Colossians chapter 1, verse 17, talking about Jesus, it says, "And he is before all things, and by him all things consist." What that means by all things consist by him is that all things are held together and kept alive and sustained by him. Right? Psalm 139, verse 7 and 8. "Whither shall I go from thy spirit, or whither shall I flee from thy presence? If I ascend up into heaven, thou art there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, thou art there." And I was just like, dang. We think God is evil for what he's doing, but he's trying to plead with us not to do that because he's going to suffer with us. Because he created us. We're the temple. Our body's the temple of God. Jesus holds us together. If we go to hell, he goes to hell. It's just how it is. I know a lot of us think, oh God, he doesn't know what it's like to be a man and all this. And then he comes down and lives life as a man. He knows us, he understands us, he loves us, he cares about us. And he's very connected to us. And I don't know, he's something else. So just making this video to get that out there and encourage you. Encourage you not to end up like this. It's a lake of fire, waiting for the devil and his angels. Their fate is already sealed, but yours isn't. I mean, right now, we're under a period of grace. You accept Jesus as your God, your Savior that died for you by faith. And just admit that you're a sinner and you need him, and call on him to save you, and your soul does not have to end up here. But you come across this video, you laugh at this kind of thing, or just dismiss it like whatever. You're still listening, and there's already been a rapture. Well, hopefully that wakes you up. But things are going to be different once that happens. You can't just accept Jesus by faith then. You got to accept Jesus by faith, but then you can't deny him, even unto death. You can't take the mark. You may watch you and your family starve to death while everybody persecutes you, mocks you, and scoffs at you, humiliates you, maybe even beat and torture you, and ultimately just kill you. And that's something you would have to do, and it's just temporary suffering so that you don't have to end up like this. But it just shows how sick Satan is. That he knows this is his fate, and he's so gone, so lost, that he just has this hatred for God that he's going to bring everybody he can here because he knows God's going to suffer with him. And he just wants to cause God more pain. That's going to be crazy. Walking with God in heaven in that joy, knowing that he's just covering up the pain he's also dealing with at the same time. That's powerful right there. That's my God right there. So anyway, thanks for watching and take care.